From borderline abusive behavior to icky romances, Ross Geller wasn't always the lovable nerd in Friends.
If she knew what was going on in your head, she'd think you were sick.
But what made him such a toxic character sometimes? Ross doesn't have the best track record when it comes to his attitude toward the LGBTQ community.
Are you gay?
Now, I'm not saying he's some kind of bigot, but there are moments in Friends where he expresses some problematic personality traits. I mean, let's talk about his attitude towards Susan and Carol's relationship for a start. Friends deserves a lot of credit for presenting a positive same-sex relationship in a mainstream sitcom at a time when it wasn't common. But Ross never quite came to terms with it, did he? You can argue that he harbored feelings of heartache because his marriage to Carol fell apart, but is that an excuse to display casual homophobia?
Do you think that something could happen between Emily and Susan?
Hey, they're going to the gym together. Two women stretching.
That's just one example of his freakouts over his ex-fiancée hanging out with his ex-wife's new life partner as well. Here he is trying to put his warped thoughts in Carol's head as well.
Did it ever occur to you that, I don't know, maybe they might be having a little too much fun?
What's too much fun?
You know, the kind of fun you and Susan had when we were married.
Insecure much? Get a grip, man. On top of that, he didn't approve of how the couple raised Ben. You know, as in buying him the toys that made him happy.
Here's my boy, and here's his Barbie.
What's the big deal? I think Susan explained it best.
So it's got a doll, so what? Unless you're afraid he's gonna grow up to be in show business.
And that wasn't even him at his worst when it came to parenting. He also didn't want his baby girl to be exposed to sensitive things. Remember the episode with the male nanny? Despite the nanny being very qualified and talented at his job, Ross keeps mocking him for being emotional.
He's a guy.
So, he's smart, he's qualified. Give me one good reason we shouldn't try him out.
Because it's weird.
Lord forbid that his daughter grows up with a positive male role model in her life, right? That said, it's hardly surprising that Ross had a problem with the nanny. He wasn't the most enlightened guy when it came to his views on gender roles, after all. He's the type of dude who'd be more than happy to have his partner stay at home as a housewife than go out and kick ass in the corporate world. Sure, he was cool with Rachel landing her dream job sometimes, but not when it was inconvenient for him.
What do you want from me? You want me to quit my job so you can feel like you have a girlfriend?
No, but it would be nice if you'd realize that it's just a job.
Just a job?
Yes.
Meanwhile, Rachel was always more than happy to support his career, even when it disrupted their couple plans.
Listen, I'm sorry I had to work tonight.
Oh, that's okay. You were worth the wait.
Those aren't even the worst examples of Ross being a sexist pig by any means. In the episode where Phoebe tells the gang that she was technically assaulted by Pablo, he tries to manipulate her feminist beliefs for his own gain, all because he wants Rachel for himself.
You have to tell her it's your moral obligation as a friend, as a woman. I think it's a feminist issue. Guys?
He couldn't even console one of her best friends after she experienced a traumatic moment without secretly making it about him? That's pretty seedy. Unsurprisingly, a lot of Ross's more toxic moments stem from his obsession with Rachel. Their love story certainly isn't without its sweet moments, but that doesn't mean the more messed up ones should get a pass. In fact, his behavior is borderline emotionally abusive when you break it down. Let's look at some examples of these insidious moments. For a start, his jealousy over her friendship with Mark causes him to become so manic that he feels the need to mark his territory, with the subtlety of a dog peeing on a fire hydrant.
As for Ross, it's a love bug.
Wow, somebody wants people to know you have a boyfriend.
And when Rachel brings up her perfectly reasonable concerns about his obsessive behavior, he throws it back in her face so she feels guilty.
I'm hurt. I'm actually hurt that you would think I would send you any of those things out of anything other than love. Hurt.
While Rachel never cheated on him, Ross has the nerve to accuse anyone of having affairs. Heck, he had a one-night stand with another woman as soon as he and Rachel took their infamous break.
I thought we were broken up.
We were on a break.
That, for all I knew, could last forever. That, to me, is a break-up.
Ross didn't mature over time, either. His toxic behavior came out in full force in Friends' emotional finale as well. There's no denying that many of us teared up a little when Rachel got off that plane and came back to give him one final chance. For all the faults in their relationship, and there were many, most Friends fans still wanted them to end up with each other.
I got off the plane.
However, let's just look at the facts before we try to dismiss this as a fairy tale romance finally getting its happily ever after. Sweet moments aside, Ross spent the episode trying to thwart Rachel's plans to move to Paris and take her dream job. He even went behind her back and convinced her Ralph Lauren bosses to offer her more money.
I'm here to see if you'll give Rachel her job back.
Ah, did she ask you to come here and do this?
Oh, no. First I have to get you to agree. Then we'll see if she wants to come back.
While it's understandable he was sad Rachel would be leaving him and their child, he still went behind her back. That's a pretty crappy thing to do. Of course, Ross had a history of deceiving a so-called lobster before then. Remember when the two of them got drunk and married in Las Vegas? What started out as an inebriated mistake between two buds led to Ross refusing to end the marriage when they sobered up.
I didn't get the annulment.
What?
We're still married. Don't tell Rachel. See you later.
Basically, he spends the episode refusing to honor Rachel's wishes simply because he can't stand the thought of another divorce. Poor Ross. Please. Does it get any worse than that? Well,
I'm a teacher. She's a student.
Ross's fling with Elizabeth might not have involved him being a manipulative jerk per se, but it's still pretty questionable and gross. The age difference between the pair is quite significant for a start. When they first get together, she isn't even old enough to drink for Pete's sake. However, Professor Geller didn't need much convincing to agree to a date with her.
The semester's over. You're not my teacher anymore.
What time?
Furthermore, the relationship didn't have any real substance. If anything, it only served as an excuse for Ross's friends to make jokes about him dating a younger woman, often comparing her to a child.
I just found out Elizabeth's dad wants to meet me.
Wait a minute, hold the phone. You're not Elizabeth's dad?
And it also gave the show's creators an excuse to bring her old man into the picture. If we want to mine one positive from the Ross and Elizabeth saga, it's that he didn't obsess over Rachel during it. He can accept her dating other guys as long as he's hooking up with her boyfriend's 20-year-old daughter. Of course, Ross had a history of dating younger women before this.
So Ross was in college and decided to jump at the chance to take a young girl to her high school prom.
Romancing it up with high schoolers and college girls certainly won't ever be included among Ross's finer moments, but his creepy antics didn't stop there.
I know that look. Forget it. I want it. She wants it. I'm going in.
I mean, what is there to say about that scene? That's his freaking cousin. He wanted to make out with a family member, and he wasn't exactly delicate with his approach. Wanting to smooch his cousin was bad enough, but did you see how aggressively he went for it as well? I don't know about you peeps, but that gave me the heebie-jeebies. Everything we've covered so far showcases Ross at his most toxic and ill-behaved, but what turned him into such a jerk? What is it about Ross that makes him such a problematic person? It can all be chalked up to the fact that he displays all of the traits of a guy with fractured masculinity. During his younger days, he was a nerd who couldn't get dates.
Oh, dear.
According to the fragile male theory, emotionally vulnerable men can grow up to be territorial and exert their dominance in their relationships with others. That was his time with Rachel in a nutshell. Heck, even his tendency to correct his friends on their grammar and wax his academic knowledge in front of them is because he feels compelled to exert dominance in some way.
Y-O-U-R-E means you are. Y-O-U-R means you're.
But let's give friends the benefit of the doubt, to some extent. There are definitely some elements of the sitcom that haven't aged well, but when it came to Ross acting like a jerk, we weren't supposed to root for him. That's not to say that the character and the show can't be critiqued. However, Ross was often portrayed as an idiot to get a bigger message across. For example, the scenes in which he showed some homophobic prejudices used him to highlight how intolerance is wrong and misguided. Of course, sometimes he was just a toxic imbecile, and his legacy is one of a complicated character. If you like this video, be sure to check out our Becoming Ross Geller feature and learn about David Schwimmer's biggest challenges playing the problematic fave.